You're right. No, she just brought it tonight. You can't take this. I looked at it. Hey, Chris. Did, Okay, sorry for the hour, I lost track of time, but we're going to call the meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Rules Subcommittee of the Lowell City Council. Ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Councilor Martin.
Here.
Councilor Mendonça.
Here.
Councilor Mercia.
Here.
3 present.
Okay, we met previously in response to several motions, I think, filed by Councilor Murphy about ways to potentially, I guess, change the election rules and laws that are applicable to local elections. I think at least the motions were to encourage more participation and see if there are ways to do that. So we did deal with a few of the proposed suggestions earlier, and there are still a couple of issues out there, but I know there are a number of people who are interested in this issue and wanted to be heard at the meeting. We didn't really have a lot of opportunity to do that at the last meeting. It was sort of dominated, I think, by younger people about the age 17 voting. So in any event, if there are people that want to be heard on these questions tonight, we're happy to hear from you, and then we'll see where the discussion goes. Anybody want to be first?
And the first issue is what? Or are they speaking in general terms?
Well, I think there were a number of suggestions made to us, but I think the only two we hadn't really directly addressed were district councilors and term limits. So, but I think, you know, if you read the motion, and I don't have it in front of me, but it was generally to look at the way the elections are conducted here to see if there's a way to encourage broader participation. So I think those are the two specific things that are out there, but I think the motion did have some broader language in it.
Go. Okay, Victoria Fallberg, and I live up in Belvedere. And I'm speaking on behalf of several of the people that are here today. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you in regard to the motions by Councilor Murphy. Today, a coalition of us have come together to ask the Rules Subcommittee, rather than take an up or down vote on Councilor Murphy's motions, we'll instead create a special act charter review committee to allow our citizen participation into these important questions regarding the charter for our city. Historically, Lowell has changed its charter many times, although the last change was in 1957, more than 50 years ago. It is a healthy way for a city to ensure that its charter still represents the best way to elect our local representatives. As recently as 1993, the city voters were asked, via a non-binding resolution, 4 questions regarding the election, composition, and length of term for the city council. Although voters clearly wanted some changes, nothing became of the results. In the 2009 election cycle, a ballot measure was placed on the ballot via a citizen's petition. Lowellians embraced the opportunity to discuss the possibility of change, and substantive discussion took place around the city regarding ways to increase voter participation and representation. While the ballot measure failed, our community was enriched by the dialogue that accompanied the attempt. In 2009, the ballot initiative did pass in all 10 of Lowell's inner city precincts. In 5 other precincts, it lost by fewer than 20 votes. It was clear that many voters in Lowell, over 5,000, voted for a change in our voting system. Further, we suspect that many others may prefer a change, simply not the change advocated by the ballot measure. Based upon our collective experience as neighborhood leaders and grassroots activists, we are confident that the majority of voters in Lowell would welcome the opportunity to continue the conversation regarding our democratic process here in our city, and the best way to accomplish that, we believe, is via a special act charter commission or committee. While those of us here today have not yet agreed upon what changes to the charter would be in the best interest of residents, we are all agreed that it is time for a review. We believe that the appointment of a special act charter review committee charged with the mission of seeking broad consensus across Lowell is in the best interest of maintaining a healthy and participatory democracy at the local level. Thank you for your time. And we would like to turn this in, if we can.
Yep. Council Mercier?
Thank you. If I might ask the speaker a few questions. I think that any type of committee that wants to review things and see what's best, what they think is best, doesn't always mean that it is, but I always welcome input and participation. So what are you aiming to achieve here? What are your goals with
Well,
this
the way that a
commission?
special charter review committee works, from what we understand through what we've been able to research, is that it's established by the city council. Because it's not it's not a charter commission in the sense that it's not elected by 50, it's not a petition put on the ballot by 15% of the voters. So on a special act charter committee, the city council would appoint the members of the committee, and the city council would have the ability to not only choose the people, but they can choose the number of people that they would want to put on the committee. And the purpose is to review the charter and to look at the different questions that have actually been brought up to the attention of this rules subcommittee. So, for example, at the last rules subcommittee where I attended, the issue was up about the 16-year-olds. I believe that passed already.
17, isn't it?
17-year-olds, that passed already through the city council, correct?
Yes, and it went to the legislative.
Okay, and so then the next thing would be the other 2 motions that are on the next thing up would be the districts and term limits. And we felt that, for example, in these 2 situations, that to have a vote up and down really doesn't allow a lot of participation from the community to decide whether we think districts are a good thing or not a good thing for the city. Or if we even talked about term limits, like how many years would that be? And then the other issue is around compensation. Do the citizens believe that our city councilors and or our school committee members are receiving enough compensation? So anyway, the questions there's like a lot of questions that can be looked at, and that would be the role of the Special Act Charter Committee. In addition, the Charter Committee, with the authority of the City Council, would conduct public hearings. Usually are conducted in the place of business, which would be the City Hall, although it's also possible that they can be held in the neighborhoods as well. But it would be something that would be authorized by the council, and that the body would report back to the council.
And you would report back to the council, and how would the changes be made, or would they be made?
Well, there would be recommendations made based on the input after all of the public hearings, and then the recommendations will be given to the city council.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know we have numerous types of government, A, B, C. We're the Plan E form of government. Lawrence has the Plan B form of government. So I don't know that we can make up our own and put a little bit of this that's good and a little bit of that to form a different one. I don't know, and it, to me, seems like that's what's going to happen here? I
Well,
don't know.
I can't say that I know the law, right? I'm not a lawyer. But from my experience, when we did the ballot initiative last year, one of the things before we even got started was we researched if we even had the right to make such a proposal, if that was legitimate. And we discovered that it was, that if we were able to reach the amounts of everything that we needed, then that indeed would be able to create the change that we were hoping to find. So I can't answer the question like saying, can we do whatever we want? It's, I'm sure that the legal counsel, but what our goal would be is to actually find out what people want. And also we would need to really determine within what people want, what would be viable.
When you say what people want, would these people that you're surveying be voters or anybody that lives in the city of Lowell?
Well, I mean, that's something that we would discuss, and we can discuss it with the council. And I can only speak for myself, but my preference is that everybody in the city of Lowell, as a resident who pays taxes, should have the right to at least have a voice, even though they can't have a vote.
So how long of a time frame would you need for this committee?
Well, I would say that the committee, if it could get started right away, that 6 months to a year would probably be what it would take. We would have to, if the city council would pass this measure, the first thing would be to appoint the body and then to work out those kind of parameters.
So this wouldn't be the rules subcommittee that would appoint the members, it would be the full council?
It would be the full council would have the ability to decide who's going to appoint the committee.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's very interesting.
Okay. Other comments, or are there other people that want to speak? We may have questions for numerous people, but I want to make sure everybody who wants to speak has the opportunity to speak. If there are others, I know you're speaking for the group, but
Yeah.
and everybody signed on to this letter, pretty much who's here, right?
Yeah, and a few people who aren't here.
Right. I guess there are people who are here that didn't sign this that want to speak. I know one. I know of one anyway, right?
So do you need me anymore, or can?
No, please, I'm sorry, no. Just, if you wouldn't mind just taking a seat for a minute,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry for my voice. My name is Mark Coleman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. Just to give a little history of the charter commissions, back in 1969, there was a charter commission that was put on the ballot, and members were elected. Robert B. Kennedy, Judge Elias Jr., Jim Curtis, those are the three names that I remember offhand. They were elected. It was a 2-year process where the Charter Commission had a lot of meetings, and the council, then they voted on what was going to be on the agenda. I don't disagree with the mayor, with the council.
Whoa.
I think something's not right.
Yeah.
Want to get some water?
Why don't we just take a break for a minute here?
Bill, can you get the bottle of water right behind you?
I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
Okay, so we're going to reconvene. We've taken a break and talked among ourselves, and we've decided to just blow right past this whole committee thing and appoint a new city councilor. So, Councilor Goldman, why don't you finish your remarks there and tell us what you have to say on this topic.
I had no problems with the previous speaker talking about how to do this, the Charter Committee. What I was saying was that in 1969, it was a process where they were elected. The Charter Commission was elected, it was formed. It did take 2 years. The question of whether it was going to be a strong mayor form of government or a city manager form of government was voted 3-1 city manager form. It was a very heavy debate. The chairman, it was a 5-4 vote of the Charter Commission, by the way, who supported a strong mayor form of government. That's how that question got on the ballot. That's just a little brief history. My view is that it should be at large and district. You could do 5 at district and 4 at large, and I think that's the way to go. Although if you want to add 2 more seats and have 11, you could do wards. And that's the process to go by. I have no problems with doing a 1-year thing. But we've always had an issue whether it would be a city manager or a strong mayor form of government. If you take this to a charter committee, we need to discuss rules about how a city manager is fired. It's always been a 5-4 vote. It's been very political. I favor 2/3, 6-3, 7-4 if you want to do that. That's the way to go. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Mark. If I could just comment, I don't think anybody is proposing, or at least I don't think there'd be many people in favor of a full-blown statutory charter commission. I mean, that's a creature of state law that it does spell out a very long process. It is somewhat cumbersome. It requires 2 local elections, I think. And if you look at the history, we haven't had that since 1970. And we've amended our charter since then. And typically, the way it works now is by special act of the legislature, proposed by the city council and adopted by the legislature. So I think that's the type of committee we're talking about here. Not to say that a full-blown charter commission doesn't have a role, but it's just not something that I think it's not what's being requested by the group tonight, and and at least from my brief conversations with councilors, that there's a requirement to provide office space and some sort of funding, and I just don't think this is the right budgetary climate to be looking at that sort of thing. So, but back to the request. There are others that want to be heard on this the letter or petition that's been submitted, or are we okay with Ms. Fahlberg's presentation of that?
Yeah.
Okay. Comments from other councilors, or?
There we go. That should work now. Okay. It's certainly an interesting proposal that's being made. I think it's worthy of reviewing our charter from time to time. So the question, I think, is going to become the mechanics of how we accomplish that. This being one proposal, I don't know if we have to go through the elaborate council appointing the committee. I think maybe we could recommend that just the neighborhood groups form this committee, have representation from all the wards, say, and then maybe select the chair as a spokesperson to bring back recommendations in a timeline that's already been stated. Could be one way to get it done. And I think the council will be open to hearing those recommendations once they're ready. If anyone in the group wants to speak to that, or
if I could just add, you can come up, but so And I had actually had a similar thought, is that maybe, you know, as I count the active neighborhood groups, I count 7, but there may be 1 or 2 that I omitted. But we could decide that each neighborhood group would have 1 or 2 or 3 representatives, whatever we agreed would be the appropriate number. There could be an election at each group to decide who that's going to be. And you could report back to us who the members are from your neighborhood group. That would be the start of the committee. The committee would form, you know, elect a chairperson, decide how you're going to have, you know, conduct the meetings, and then report back. So that type of process would be agreeable to me. I don't know how other councilors or the members of the committee feel about it, or how you feel about it, but I think that's a good suggestion. And if I could just add, because, you know, I'm the chairman of another subcommittee on cable television where we have to make appointments every 2 years. And it's a pretty cumbersome thing to have a committee appoint a committee. So, and then, you know, you have to recruit people, then some people are, you know, maybe you don't get enough, but you've asked somebody to apply, and then you get too many, and someone gets rejected. People's names are presented in public, then maybe not accepted, and it's not as easy a process as you'd like to think. So my view of council appointing committees has not been it's not been a positive experience chairing a committee that has to make appointments like that. And then people wonder about what bias you're coming from as you're selecting these people, when half the time you're just looking for somebody who's willing to serve. So if this is kind of a neighborhood grassroots effort, that may be a way to get, you know, you're going to get people that are interested in this process. So I guess we'd be open to comments on how you feel about that.
Discuss this as a group, so other people may have comments that they want to make as well. But I believe that the people who are here tonight and the others who've signed the letter are willing to serve and would welcome the opportunity. The one thing I do want to say, though, is that I would see it as being very important that it is, that we are appointed, only because we need to have it the official auspices of your office as city councilors approving this, because that lends the process a credibility that we on our own don't have. And in addition, it allows the public to understand that you have your support behind what we're doing. We're not just out there in the neighborhoods like rebel rousers. So I do think that it would be important that it would be created as a special act charter review committee under the authority of the city council and appointed by you. But like I said, I believe that we would be willing to serve. And the only other thing I want to say is there may be a few other people who we got together because we know each other and because people are identified as community leaders. But I think there's a possibility there may be 1 or 2 other people out there that really want to be a part. And so the only thing I would say is not to completely just make this it and not allow anybody else to express an interest in joining us. But, that might be something you would give a task to us, and we would be happy to do that. So that's...
What's a workable number, you think?
A workable number?
Of the full group?
Well, I believe that a charter commission that's formed based on the 15% petition is 9. And so that may be the magic number that we want to look at. We certainly don't want it to become so wieldy that we can't accomplish our goal. On the other hand, I think it would be very fortunate if we had a big enough committee that every person doesn't, because what we're going to be doing is public hearings. And it might be nice that if, everybody doesn't have to go to every public hearing. And so 9 would allow us to maneuver that better, I think.
That shoots down your theory on 2 or 3 members from every neighborhood group. And incidentally, I think there's 12 neighborhood groups. Could be as high as 16, but let's just say there's 12. And let's just say you have 2 people each, that's 24, or 3, that's 36. And then you want to take in others that are not involved in that. To me, how many people on the LTC board? Like about 100? I mean, the more people, it's
Right.
confusing.
Well, if every neighborhood wants a representative, that would certainly be, I think, agreeable to us. I don't know how many neighborhood groups there are. And then, well, you guys all know me. It's like I'm sort of thinking maybe somebody from the Immigration Commission might want to join us, because I do believe that that's a constituency out there that's not with us tonight. And so if you wanted to limit it to that, I would be agreeable to that, but I can't speak for everybody who's here, so maybe somebody else would want to speak to that.
Let me ask, can we at least agree on who the neighborhood groups are? Because if you said 9, but 13 people signed this letter.
But some
so
people are duplicates from the same neighborhood.
Well, right, but, so even if, so you said all these people are willing to serve, but that's going to require, if we pick
Everybody
9
doesn't have to serve. I mean, I'm just saying that we would be willing to serve.
All right, but so who are the neighborhood groups? If anybody would, so,
Is the Riverside represented here? Carol McCarthy is here, right?
Carol?
But it's not just the Sacred Heart, it's the Riverside as well. You combined?
That Elaine can't make, I make, and meetings that I can't make, Elaine makes. So we're joined together.
The Acre is not here.
Right.
Belvedere is not
Right.
here.
but I just want to know who they
Tucketville
are.
is not here.
But-
PCC,
Right, so you said there were 12, right? So
I know there's at least 12. There could be 16, but I'm saying there are 12.
that act,
I know that they're actively 12, probably as much as 14. There's at least 12. And I think this is a good idea. I may
Can
not
someone,
agree with a lot of,
tell us who the
But you don't
12
know,
are?
maybe you will.
Can someone tell us who the 12 are? Because I'm,
Okay, going around the city, there's the Acre.
Yeah.
Lower Highlands, Centerville,
yeah,
Tucketville,
yeah.
Belvedere, Sacred Heart Riverside, Upper Highlands,
Highlands, Nancy
which is the
Judge.
Highland Circle, it's
Yes,
the same.
Highland Circle, yeah,
Downtown,
yeah.
that's 8.
That's what I got, 8.
I think that's it. There's no one in Lower Belvedere. So,
What
more
about back
Belvedere.
central?
Back Central, David, right, Back Central.
David Coach.
Okay.
Who did you merge with? Riverside? Riverside, oh, all right.
So I think there's 9.
We're still separate in case they have issues, or they won't be separately for meeting sake.
So there we go, 9.
12.
You could ask maybe someone from the Veterans Council.
Let me just say, though, if you start adding other groups, because, Victoria suggested the Immigration Commission, now I'm hearing veterans, but that's a pretty tough place to draw the line, because there are business groups, chambers of commerce, there are, many other constituencies, if you will. So I think it's one thing to have a group of, neighborhood groups. I think that's one thing. But if it's going to be a different thing, it's going to be much broader and more difficult to determine who those groups are, I think. So, would everybody be satisfied with one member from each neighborhood? Should it be more than one? And then perhaps, you could select a chair to make it an odd number from somewhere else.
Mr. Chairman, if you had double plus 1, like a city council race, that's 9 groups. Take 2 people and then have 1 be the chair. So there's your double plus 9, you'll never forget it. That's how many people you need to run in a city council to have a primary. So if you want to start off historic, that to me, double plus 1, 19, 2 from each 9 neighborhood groups, and then 1 being the chair.
I wasn't going to talk because I'm like the reluctant member of this group. However, I'm really actually glad that I got involved, because the nice thing is that we don't even agree on anything, so that's great, right there. There's more than one idea is going to come out. But would it be possible to do the 9 and then one alternate for each? So that way, not every single person has to attend every meeting. They'd be able to send a delegate from their neighborhood.
That's a good idea, too.
Yeah.
All right.
Is
that
there-
makes sense.
So, so each neighborhood group would have one representative,
One alternate.
and then one alternate, and then there would be a chair chosen from among that group? Mr. Mitchell?
Thank you. Would it be possible for someone from the council to be a part of this as well? One member from the council?
You have a view on that, Chris?
I don't know that that's really what's envisioned or intended by this type of a process. Simply because you're reporting back to the council and then having the council vote as a whole to approve everything. It may be best to not actually have a member of the council who's part of the actual commission. Just a thought, nothing definitive, however.
Suppose we could ask for volunteers. But yeah, I mean, if there is a member of the council, they're going to have a view, and it could be, I guess, less than fresh, right, if you participate. Well, is there any consensus about that from the folks that are here tonight? If the council were to take that action, appoint 9 members, one from each neighborhood group, you would actually select in your group who the person would be. Report back to the council who the member was, who the alternate was, and I suppose over time, that might change. Somebody could, move away or whatever, and so the alternate would slide in. You'd be charged to keep us up to date if there were a change. But that would be the format of the group, and could consider what issues you want to consider. I think the only thing we'd ask you to consider is charge of the original motion is to, what would increase participation, or what in your view would increase participation. And then once the report comes back, the council would act, as it saw fit at that time. Yes, anyone
Cliff?
have objections to that?
Oh,
We've already voted?
gave the thumbs up.
Okay, so I guess we would need a motion.
Motion that we accept the recommendation of a participant to create and approve a charter committee for the purpose of studying how you can increase voter participation, district representation, term limits, etc.
Yeah, I guess those issues would be considered, although you wouldn't, are we going to limit it to that? I think it's not
We're not
necessarily
limited
right.
to that for
And if you-
discussion of election issues.
Right, and if you thought those issues weren't, going to lead, then you wouldn't have to actually address them if you didn't see fit to address them.
That's
So,
right. So there's the motion on the table.
Yeah, if I could just add just the procedure that we're following is to recommend that the neighborhood groups supply names of who they'd like to nominate so that we can appoint them to that committee. So there'll be a nominee and an alternate from each neighborhood group that we've mentioned, the 9. Is that acceptable?
Okay,
I'll second the motion with the amendment.
okay. Any discussion on the motion? Anybody else want to be heard? All right, so that, the report would come back to who? To me as the chair, to the clerk?
We'd need a roll call on that motion.
Right.
Mr. Clark.
All right, so we're going to, well, the council will have to adopt this, but assuming the council follows the recommendation of the subcommittee, we form the committee, then the neighborhood groups will report back the names to the full council, I guess, right? To the city, through the city clerk. Okay?
Sure,
work?
that's
All right.
fine.
All right. Okay, roll call on the motion?
Counselor Martin?
Yes.
Counselor Mendonça?
Yes.
Counselor Mercia?
Yes,
3 yeas.
Okay, anything else to come before the committee? Anyone want to be heard on anything else? Okay. Okay, thank you all, and thanks for those who helped
No.
Mr. Goldman.
you have a very big task ahead of you, and you're creating more work for yourself, but and I admire that, because, you could be tending your garden this summer, but instead you're going to be meeting to try to figure out ways to get more people to vote. You ought to be commended for that. That's not an easy thing. I may not agree with some of your findings, but I do admire the fact that you're putting in a lot of time and the pay scale is 0. So I really, really feel bad that you have to do this work, but I support your efforts to do that. Thank you very much.
Could I guess I'd like to say similar things. I've been pretty upfront about my opposition to some of the ideas that have been suggested, but I do think it's crucial to the future of cities that we keep strong participation. I think, with one thing cities always have in its favor when we're looking for state aid, when we're looking for grant money, all the things that come to us usually by virtue of our population. And historically, cities have turned out, considerable vote. And if we don't keep that, if we don't keep a large voting population in the city, it will, erode our political influence over time, which will, erode our economic well-being as well. So I do think this is a worthwhile effort, and I appreciate the effort of the folks that are behind this. As you said, you don't necessarily even agree among yourselves. So there will be disagreements, and who knows what the end result will be. But I think it's certainly a worthwhile discussion, a worthwhile effort, and I know all of us are very appreciative of your efforts, so thank you. Okay, we stand adjourned then.